Does it change when we have the talk? What do you want from me? Should I laugh at what I don't know? Turn the tables, tell me what's wrong. First you stay, but then you go. What do you want from me? By the creek just down the hill, Patricia's all alive. Just with you I want the thrill of sweet red cherry. Welcome. So I sail away to an old place where people die but try. You faded in, but I fade away. Can you see me through the water? Or would you cry if I don't make it? Turn the page and just fake it. Maybe we'll go ahead and get started, Tracy. What do you want from me?
Let me just switch screens. Stop sharing. Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here with us.
Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay, great. Okay. Afternoon, early evening, everyone. This is the Policy Leadership Academy. We are in Module 4. So welcome, everyone. We have an exciting speaker this afternoon. I'm going to be turning it over to my director to introduce. We have the acting city manager for the city of Palmdale. Rhonda is going to be joining us shortly. We have Nardy Lopez, the assistant to the city manager, and Patricia Morales, the community programs coordinator. So I'm going to turn it over to my director, Sylvia, to introduce these ladies.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be here with us today. As usual, we appreciate everybody being here with us. And today we've got some amazing speakers joining us, and we're really thankful to have them here. The first person I'd like to introduce is Nardy Lopez. Nardy Lopez serves as the assistant to the city manager. She has over 16 years of public engagement and local government experience. Nardy holds a certification in public engagement from Pepperdine University's Davenport Institute of Public Engagement and Civic Leadership. She led the award-winning 2020 census outreach efforts for the city of Palmdale. She currently leads the WellBeing Lab certificate in applied positive psychology program, an initiative under Palmdale Cares, and the public engagement efforts for the general plan update and proposed Palmdale Regional Recreation Complex. One of Nardy's strengths and passion is to engage the public in partnership with the city. Her experience, education, and hands-on engagement in public participation efforts exemplifies her commitment to improve the quality of life for all residents. With us tonight as well, we have Patricia Morales. She's the Community Programs Coordinator for the City of Palmdale. Patricia has over 20 years of volunteer involvement, community engagement, and nonprofit management experience. Patricia has focused on community involvement during her 10-year tenure at the City of Palmdale. First, as the SAFES coordinator, and now in her new role. She has mobilized large groups of community volunteers for one-day projects, as well as motivated community volunteers for long-term commitments for ongoing city projects. Patricia is a powerful force in the workplace and uses her positive attitude and tireless energy to encourage others to work hard and succeed. Also joining us from the city of Palmdale is Rhonda Perez, the acting city manager. Rhonda joined the city of Palmdale in October of 2021. Prior to joining the Palmdale team, she served as executive director of Antelope Valley Economic Development Growth Enterprise, AVEDGE, from 2020 to 2021, and Assistant City Manager and Parks and Recreation and Arts Director for the City of Lancaster for 14 years. She has extensive experience in capital project management, landscape maintenance, park development, program creation, and implementation, special events, entrepreneurial ventures, strategic planning, communications, code enforcement, housing, economic development, finance, and public works development, services and management. Rhonda's accomplishments are built upon a strong foundation. Her years of experience speak volumes regarding her keen understanding of local government and its purpose. Ladies, again, thank you for being here, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here today on behalf of the city and to speak about public participation. I'm very honored to be doing this as well here with Patricia. We have worked here together for several years, and most of our role here has been in engaging the community, and both of us have a passion for that. So we are very happy to be able to be here today to provide information today to everyone about the importance, right, of public participation and why it makes a difference in our community. And we will start off with our first slide with a quote. So, individual efforts can bring excellence, but only collective efforts can deliver effectively. So think about that quote as we do the presentation and we speak about the impact that public participation has in the community. So what is community? When we talk about community, we have, it's a set of people living in a particular space or region and usually linked by common interest. We all live in a community here, right? The Antelope Valley, Palmdale, Lancaster, the surrounding areas. There are different things that bind us together. Some of those are occupation, language, beliefs, values, religion, culture. We live in the same geographical area. We share the common goals or problems. We share similar development aspirations. We have similar interests or social network or relationship at local levels. We have a common leadership and tradition, or we have a common system of communication. And what is participation? So participation, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is the act of taking part in an activity or event, to have a share in or to take a part in. And what is community participation? So those two together, it's a process by which people are enabled to become actively and genuinely involved in defining the issues of concern to them and making decisions about factors that affect their lives, in formulating and implementing policies, in planning, developing, and delivering services, and in taking action to achieve change. And why is community participation important? You know, community participation is important because it promotes consensus and it instills confidence in the community. It's a process, right, by which individuals and families assume responsibility for their own health and welfare and for those of the community, and they develop capacity to contribute to their and the community development. Through community participation, the community develops self-resilience, critical awareness, and problem-solving skills. So it allows for us to be able to be a voice in our community, right? For what, and for our families, for our children's future, even our parents, right? As our parents, you know, get older, then we also need to have a voice to be able to have the resources at their reach here in the community, especially if we look at our community here in the Antelope Valley, where we don't have right? Maybe everything at our fingertips as if we were in, LA or down below where there's more resources, more things offered. It's important to hear the voice of our community, to know what it is that is needed. And so that's why it's so important for the participation. As a city, we provide resources, programs, etc. We're doing it based on what we are, engaging from others in best practices and current needs. But if we are not aware of everyone in our community, what their needs are, because every year, our population increases, we get more people moving into the community, then it's good for us to know what it is that, new voices in the community are needing, so we can then advocate and be able to bring those programs and services that are needed locally. There's different stages of participation. There's different levels. There's here it identifies as at level 1. It's where we, community receives benefits. Some of the resources we provide, the programs, whatever, the community isn't really engaging, isn't contributing anything. They're just, receiving the service, the programs and services we're offering. You then have level 2, which is some personnel, financial or material contribution from the community, but not involved in the decision making. And as you see the different levels, what we try to seek is to get to that level 5, which is the program is entirely run by the community, except for some external financial and technical assistance. So basically, the community is, taking responsibility for it. They're engaging in it. Everyone is, given information as to what is working for them. And it's a partnership. If you look at it, we get to a point at level 5 where it's not, one group only providing, it's a partnership, it's working together. Patricia, do you have anything to share on any of these, please?
Okay.
There's degrees of community participation. So you want to be at, you want to get to the point where you are towards ownership and sustainability. The sustainability piece is so important because when programs start, if there is an engagement, if there isn't cooperation, consultation, it's understanding that program's working for the recipients, etc., then it doesn't sometimes it doesn't maintain its sustainability. So it doesn't go long term. And sometimes programs, die off, or, they're changed because there's not a lot of participation, etc. But that does not mean that it's not working for, for some. And so that's where there's that, I feel there's that gap, because there could be a program that's working for some people, but because it's, everyone's not engaging in it, et cetera, we may not have all the information as to for who it's working, who not. They could change the program to something else. Doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't working for some. So the some that may have been benefiting from it no longer had that program accessible to them, because maybe there isn't the input from as many community members. And I'm sure that Patricia probably, deals with that a lot in her community programs that she offers through Saves and through other programs like food distribution or other programs. And I'm sure she encounters that probably on a daily basis.
And actually, I will talk a little about that. As it was said in my intro, I spent a big chunk of the time that I've been here at the city working at the Saves program. So for some of you, you know what Saves is, but there might be maybe a one person in the group that doesn't know what Saves is. So I'm going to tell you. Saves is the city food bank. So the city of Palmdale, about 40 years ago now, decided to have their very own food bank, right? It's I say that because it's really important I've gone to many places and through many presentations and all around the country, and I have yet to find another city that has their very own food bank, right? But when I came to Saves about 10 years ago, Saves was very small. It wasn't really at its, I dare say it wasn't really achieving what I thought could be achieved through this program, right? It had the full support of the city, but the community really wasn't engaged. The community, there were people like Nardy was saying who benefited from the services. And so if you needed food, you most likely would somehow end up at Saves. So it was working, but not really engaging the community, wasn't really meeting its full potential, right? So over a process of 10 years, we worked together with the community, right? So first it was collecting information. Who knows about Saves? Who should know about Saves? And what is Saves here to do in the community? So the obvious answer is provide food, right? So we were doing that, and Saves had done that very well. When I came here, they were doing a really great job. But what we weren't doing, it was really connecting to any other stakeholders, right? So one of the things that happened was we started to really look at who else could we provide service to, and how can we engage the community in Saves. What we ended up doing was we started looking at the other things that Saves could do. Saves could provide volunteer opportunities for people looking to connect with their community. We could provide a place for youth to come and do community service. We can provide a place for a retiree to come and give something back to the community. We could also partner up with other agencies so that the services that Saves provided, which were primarily food, we didn't have many more staff, and that was one of the reasons the program had not grown. We can provide now new services for our clients because we were participating with other standing organizations, right? So pretty soon, it took, well, not soon, but it took us about 9 years, 8 or 9 years, and Saves evolved, right? What did it look like number-wise? When I first started at Saves, we would do about 600 unduplicated clients in a year, in a fiscal year. So that means 600 people came, sometimes multiple times, but it was only 600 unduplicated clients. At the end of 2019, right before COVID, we had over 10,000 unduplicated clients being served at Saves. I would like to add that throughout this whole time, there was only one full-time staff, me, and we had 2, and at the end, 3 part-time staff, 18 hours each, right? How could one person and 3 part-time people do this? How could we reach 10,000 unduplicated clients in a year? Well, we didn't do it alone. What we had created was a program that was engaged. We had created a program that people came, they saw what they did, and it filled them, you know, and it awoke in them a desire to give back to their community. I had, and we still do have, volunteers at Saves. They volunteer every single day. They come to us as if they're going to work. I have had volunteers work 40 hours just as volunteers, right? Not just, but as volunteer workers, right? And those individuals gave Saves great ideas on program growth. In 2018, we made a huge change in Saves. We moved into what is called a client's choice food bank, where it moved away from the traditional food bank setup where you give people a box of food and it's kind of like the mystery box, right? They get whatever you gave them. We went to client's choice, and what that made Saves into was a little grocery store where the client comes in, they fill out the paperwork, we do all those, things we need to do. And then they go in the back and they choose based on the options given to them what they want to take home, right? In order for us to move to that place, we not only engage our volunteers, our community programs, but we also engage the clients. Like Nardy was saying, right? We had meetings with the people receiving the service and asking them, what is it that you want? What kind of foods do you think we need to be focusing on? What are the things that you want from us? And at the end, it really has become a program that is embraced by the community because it's from the community to the community, right? Like I said, right now, due to the COVID pandemic, we have one of the largest staffing that we've ever had. We currently have about 22 part-time staff, but we have been able to provide food from day one of the pandemic and have not stopped since then. And all of that is only possible because of these great partnership and this ownership that, our partners, our volunteers said, no, Saves needs to be here. So we can't close. So we didn't close. And with their support, financial support from people in the community, donations of food from the community. So it became, I think, the perfect example to this slide, right? Where you
Yes.
go from being a program where people are just not investing anything in it, but receiving from, to a program where the community gives. I mean, we have 6-year-olds that come on Family Volunteer Day and they can pack up food boxes for Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? It's all inclusive. And I think that that's kind of like the goal.
Yes, and it actually ties perfectly with these degrees of community participation, because if you start at co-option, that is when the token involvement of local people, its representatives are chosen, but have no real input or power. By the time you get to co-learning, to collective action, it's where people are together. That's where the people have spoken, they've given their input, they've identified the needs, and also they have identified their desire to also help to make it happen. So it's truly a collective effort. Saves right now has more staffing because of the COVID pandemic. Some of our part-time staff from other departments that are unable to engage with the public in what they do, then they were, transitioned to other areas so that they can continue working and serve. So we found ways of partnering even within the organization on how to engage and make, the participation be effective. And then we can move on to types of participation. So there's different types, and that kind of goes with what Patricia just spoke about too. There's passive participation, there's active participation, and there's involvement. And so passive is, you individuals are just, and families are spectators. They're just, receiving, they're not engaged in it. Active is more of, they may be carrying out some task in the program, but are not involved with the final decision making in what is to be done. The final decision in such cases are made by people who are not members of the community in such situations. And so the community does not develop a sense of self-reliance. In involvement, it's community control. So when we say that, it means that, the community is, they're saying what their needs are, they're involved, they have their voice, their stake in what is, in the decisions, et cetera, et cetera. So you always try in public participation to thrive, to be in an involvement state with the community. It's as important for the organization that is providing the program or developing a project as it is for the people that are going to be engaging in that program or using a facility once it's built or engaging in what is being offered, right? Because at the end of the day, I believe the recipients, the participants at the end of what is decided are the main stakeholders. And so their voice is so important. And we move on to how can you build community participation and community mobilization? Patricia gave a great example with SAVE. She gave a great example, a breakdown of how, you know, it's taken time. Yes, it does. But being engaged, passionate about what is being done, bringing in the stakeholders, partnering with people, partnering with other organizations that may be able to fill a gap that you may not have when you are, you know, looking to do a program. It's such a key, right, to a successful and sustainable program or project, because there's more, I believe, accountability, right? When people have a stake in something, then, you know, there's engagement, there's belonging. And I think that's what community is about. It's about belonging. It's about, you know, working together to make something happen. And you mobilize people with that, with putting effort in it. And community participation has to have community mobilization, because if not, it won't happen. So the community has to be mobilized. We have to, you know, that they know what's going on, that they know that they have a voice, that we want them to provide input and be part of the process. So that's very important.
I like to make comment on this, you know, how can you build community participation and mobilization, right? You have to be willing to let go. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know what happened to my faces. I love to see the responses, but
I know me and Patricia are looking at each other.
yeah, we're only looking at each other, so I don't know the people behind the here. But you have to be willing to trust that the community knows, right? So you become a steward, right, of sorts. You and this is difficult to do. I'll speak from experience, okay? I had SAVES was luckily not my first rodeo. I've been here before, right? Where I came from a place of a lot of need and not a lot of resources. I came from nonprofit, right? So for where I came from, if you're gonna be successful in nonprofit, you have to make do with little and work it. And sometimes, you know, just be able to say, I don't have the answers, and go to somebody that might be able to help you, right? And this is what this requires. It requires you to be able to put your idea forth. Like, you know, when we moved, I mentioned earlier that we went to Client's Choice, right? I went somewhere, the idea was presented, and I loved it. I thought, that's where SAVES needs to go. That'd be great. And I came back, I was pumped. You'll probably have all gone to a conference somewhere, and you come back to your office and you're like, I figured it out, right? I have the answer, right? That was me. I came back, I was like, I had my little book, I had everything, and I got my team together and I said, guys, I know where we need to go next. And I told them all, and their faces were like, what is she talking about? She's crazy. I'm gonna leave if she does that, right? So I had two choices. Choice one was, they don't know, they weren't at the meeting, So I'm just gonna do it, right? And I could have because I was the coordinator. I was quote unquote the boss, right? I was the one getting the paycheck and I was the one having to give numbers to the city. So I could have done it. But I would have lost the people that supported the program. The reason the program had been so successful for the last few years. It wasn't me. It was them coming around and telling me, you know what, Patricia, maybe we should do this. This is not working. People are having trouble bringing this stuff. Maybe we should give them this option or that option. And it was my job to then go back and figure out if it would work with my funders, right? I have funders and I have certain guidelines to adhere to. So my job was more to see, okay, is doing that still going to allow me to be okay with my funders, right? So the other choice was, okay, I need to show them why I'm so excited. I need to sell them on this. It took me 2 years. I went to that training in 2016. I came pumped and and then we became a Client's Choice Pantry in 2018. But by the time we became a Client's Choice Pantry 2 years later, my whole team was behind me, right? Everybody was like, oh, okay, I guess this was a good idea. Okay, good. But the program in 2018 that we opened was completely different than the program I thought we would have opened in 2016. So community participation and especially community mobilization requires you working with people. And it requires working with people that might have a different idea to get to the solution than you have, right? So I think that that needs to be said. It's important that you have to be willing to give and take. And it's not one of those things that happens quickly, and it's not necessarily going to look the way you and your little management team thinks it should look, right? So this work is not for the faint of heart. You have to really be committed. Yes. Because it requires you to really take a look at what you want and what the community, wherever that is, it could be a PTO, it could be your, the Girl Scouts, it could be whatever what the community is, and you have to be okay with what the community wants, not just what you're thinking it should get.
Yes, very well said.
Thank you.
And as we move on, we have benefits for community participation. So, every project, every program, every community engagement that you do, every community outreach workshop, you learn from it. You learn from it for your next round, right? You see what was missed. It's not only looking at how successful the community workshop was or the community engagement. It's also looking at what could be improved for the next round. We provide, I've learned through process of, we did census outreach and we're doing community workshops for certain projects. And so we always hear during the outreach portion, there's always one or two people or a few that will say that they didn't know about it at all, that they didn't know about it. And you go back to your checklist and you say, okay, so what modes of advertisement did we use, right? Here in the city, we activate all our modes of advertisement. We do press releases, we put on digital boards, we do mailings if we need to. We put it in our Palmdale magazine, the quarterly one. We do social media, we do the website, we try to engage as much as possible and figure out ways to inform the community. But there will always be some that will say they didn't hear about it. And that's very important. That is a very important piece to listen to and to focus on, because not everybody has access to social media. Not everybody has access to, maybe the Palmdale magazine. Not everybody has access to the internet for the website. Not everybody maybe gets the newspaper, right? So it's finding out, always being ahead of the game, finding out ways to get the message out. One of the most important ways that I have found, and we have found as an organization to get the word out, is partnering with other organizations to help us share the information. And that's why it's so important to, like Patricia said, sometimes we tend to stay in our bubble, right? We got this, we know how to do this. We've done it before. And, there's a beauty about partnering with other people and other organizations. I think it's such a very important factor as well in mobilizing the residents, the community, to participate, because can't be done only, alone. I learned this through the census outreach. That was an effort that I led, and I learned a lot from, because, I realized we live in a geographical area, where there are people that sometimes don't have access to public transportation. They live by themselves. They don't have anyone to, drive them around, daily. It's something that, to look out for. Also, there's language barriers sometimes, right? So thinking of not material only in English, right? Because looking at our demographics, finding platforms and information that can be shared in other languages, looking at, physical limitations, time constraints, right? We live in a community where there's a lot of commuting. There's a lot of people that leave early in the morning and do not get back till, late hours. So if you offer workshops, if you offer, community input sessions, got to think of not only offering it one day, one time, looking at even the fact of offering it maybe on one area and then, in the opposite side of town, because there are people that may live all the way, far out on the east side that may not have transportation or an easy way to get to the west side, right? To attend. Looking now with COVID and all of that, and the spike of using Zoom like we are doing right now, do people have access for that? So finding ways to do things hybrid, to get the information out as best as possible and try to serve others. The very important piece when you do outreach, I think, is also getting the input while you have the people there at the workshop, to do maybe a quick survey, right? Of how did you hear about this? Collecting your information to be able to make the next outreach, more the information to get out even further. But the most important piece I found during, the engagement through the census is the partnerships are priceless. I think that people sharing information, you have a flyer on an important event, and having those contacts in those different organizations that you can say, hey, we're having this event, let's share it. One of the things I found too during COVID is that we had a lot of organizations. I mean, I have to say that we were actually fortunate, right, in our area here, that were so eager to distribute food. We had so many people trying to distribute food. And I realized that, the lack of communicating with each other, right, you could end up with 2 or 3 different food distributions on the same day. Versus if everyone communicates, then you can have most likely a food distribution almost every day of the week. Because then one organization can schedule theirs on, such days and such date. So, partnering and working with each other, and how Patricia said, letting go. And we have to learn how to do that. I have to say myself, letting go and trusting that, everyone's interest is the best interest for the community, and that we're all working together to serve. Another thing that I found too, with collaborating with other entities, is that, for example, if there's one organization that is giving out food, and they gave out, to everyone that came that day, but they still have food left that may go bad in a day or 2, and they're not scheduled to give it away, they can partner with another organization and say, hey, we have this extra food. You guys are having yours tomorrow. Let's, because the goal is to get the food out to those that need, right, in the community. That is what we are doing. And that doesn't go just for food distribution. It goes for many other programs and services that we offer. I have to say that during the census outreach, I learned and realized that, wow, we are a community full of people wanting to serve, because there's so many nonprofits and so many different organizations that are, serving, and we can make a difference by doing that. But imagine what a difference we can do if we join forces. And so that is something that I think is so important for community participation. It is not just getting the people to come, it is joining forces so we can serve better, we can provide more, minds together, like Patricia said, you create other programs will birth from that, other partnerships, and then it continues and continues. Lastly, what I would like to share is, the community collaboration. The city has, done the 2020 census efforts. I'm happy to share that, though we were not able to count, 100%. I don't know if there's any community that got 100%. It's a very challenging thing to do. But I have to say that we did very well for being in the middle of the pandemic, trying to count people, not being able to be there in person, having to pivot and shift all of our pre-planned public engagement to hybrid. I have to say that the partnerships that were created through the 2020 census outreach is what allowed for us to get the results that we did. If it wasn't for the school districts joining efforts with the city and saying, hey, we're going to distribute at all these schools, and the city's providing all the material and bags and everything for people to get the information, the material. So many other organizations that helped, community organizations that helped us distribute material. We were providing it. We were, doing the census, bottles and all of that. And so they helped us distribute it. We gave it to them, and that is how we were able to get a lot of the word out. We stood in lines of food distribution with iPads, helping, having people fill out their census forms if they wanted to. We held a census raffle challenge. We found ways to be able to have people participate. The city right now, we did the general plan update, community engagement through that process as well. That was, very important to get out. But one of the things that we are working on right now is the Palmdale Regional Recreation Complex. And we have 2 workshops that are coming up, January 31st and February 1st. One of them, the one on January 31st, is going to be at Mary Kerr Park at 6:30 in the Recreation Center. And the one on February 1st is going to be at 6:30 at the Palmdale Oasis Recreation Center next to Dry Town. This is public participation because the city is doing a feasibility study to look at creating or building a regional recreation complex. And we need the community's input. We need to hear, what do you want? You know, the youth is so important. That's one piece that I feel in public participation that is not as strong, and people do not push to make that stronger. And they are our future, right? So we're getting input for projects that are going to be out a few years out. These high school students, right, are going to probably go to college, and we want them back in our community, right? We want them to be able to be back and work here, and, you know, with our economy, come back to their families. So we need to hear their input. What do you want for the future? What do you want? Part of the general plan update 2045 was looking at 25 years to the future, right? In our general plan update. Well, we can get information, yes, from the adults. That's great. We give great information, but we need it from the kids, right? Because in 2045, they're the ones that are going to be in certain positions here, certain, you know, and so hearing from them. So I think that is so important. That's a piece that I feel that a lot of times is left out in public participation. They have very creative minds and innovative minds, and you can get them to engage and give you such great information that maybe, you know, as adults, sometimes we're not looking at, but it's such an important piece. And so now in this thing, I will ask for partnerships right now from you all that are here listening and watching, to engage with us and sharing this information about these workshops. Come out yourselves, right? And participate. And it's going to be an interactive. It's by the consultant that's running the feasibility study. It's a great group. It'll be interactive. They will show, you know, different images of recreation centers throughout, you know, the states that we have visited, and the possibilities of things that we could have. And so that's very important. So I will do my pitch right now to engage and mobilize our public to come out to these workshops and help us get the word out, because this is the first phase. There's going to be a few workshops, and you don't need to attend both on the 31st and the 1st. They're both the same. It's just that we're offering on 2 different days because of the same reason, right? Some people may not be able to come on the Monday. We're offering it again on the Tuesday on different areas of town, so people can get there. There's going to be a survey they're going to do during the workshop to engage you, and you will learn a lot, and you will see the possibilities there is for these types of projects to come here to Palmdale. I mean, we would probably be one of the first areas to have a regional recreation complex that can have so many different components to it that, you know, the schools can most likely use for some of their activities. Families can go as a whole and everyone have something to do. It's such a, you know, grandparents with their kids. I'm looking forward to it because I want to take my granddaughter and my grandson to there when it's you know, ready to go. So there's so much to do that in these public participation, and your voice is so important. Like, you know, we matter. We live here. We engage here. We want to improve the quality of life, right, of the community we live in. So your voice is very valuable and important. So when you hear about a public engagement, you know, don't hesitate to look into it. Don't hesitate to show up and you know, and learn about it and share it with your neighbors and share it with everybody, anyone else at work, and get the word out that these things are happening and that their voice, their participation is so important. And we're also working on the WellBeing Lab, which is a certificate in applied psychology, positive psychology. I know there's some here on this group that are attending that group as well. And it has been I mean, for me, I have to say, when I first heard about it, I was like, we're doing what? However, I was tasked with leading the efforts of you know, getting the word out to community members. People applied, and it has been one of the best experience I think I have had in not just self-reflection, but in the community working together. I think the group is amazing. We are looking at offering a second round. We are also looking at finding partners in the community that will want to, you know, commit as well, along with the city, to sponsor some of the participants, right? Because we want to do it all in the city, but you know, funding and thing and whatever, it gets difficult sometimes. But what has been experienced through this program has been so amazing that I believe it needs to just keep, you know, flowing like water into the community and helping people thrive and be positive even through difficult times. And we all know that we've lived difficult times right now, and we deal with a lot of different things on a daily basis while we are trying to serve. And so it's bringing us back to reflecting on ourselves, but also how to engage with others as we are doing, right? And how do we participate and engage with others and make this community a more thriving community. And so that takes a little bit of a piece of all of us, right? And that's why public participation and collaboration is just so important, and it's so important. I can't relay it enough. I know I get very passionate about it because I love it. I love to engage with people. I love to see people doing well. I love to see people working with each other, working with the city. That's what I could say. And so keep these dates in mind. We are going to be putting information out hopefully soon about the next cohort for the WellBeing Lab. So if you're interested, please, you're going to have some great mentors, because we do have the participants that are going to be finishing up the first round. They are going to serve as mentors for our second round. And I know that they're going to love to do that and share what they've learned. So you have that benefit as well. So now I am going to pass it on to Patricia so she can finish off on more of our community programs.
Thank you, Nardy. So before I get going on my presentation, I want to break it up a little. And so I want to just put some questions up, okay? I think that the questions are going to come up in the chat, I believe, but here's the question. I'm going to read it out. Respond in the chat. Let me know what you think, okay? And to the host, are we able, if they raise their hand, are we able to pick on them and they can give us some of their answers?
Absolutely, yeah. And Stephanie's going to be putting the question. So if you're ready for the first question, she can put that in, and then we can see who is raising their hands in order. And so I can have Darrell help as well.
And I think I might want to do that. I love my co-facilitator, but I kind of want to hear other people's voices.
It should be interactive. I mean, this is the AV right here.
I'm dying here because when I do presentations, I'm a walker, right? I walk around, I move my hands.
They have us confined right now.
And I'm like this. So I need to get something here. So yeah, let's the first question is, and this is just, I'm a child of the 80s, right? So,
me too.
So I'm like, yeah, my kids are like, they listen to 80s music all the time and they're like, oh, mom, right? But it takes me to good places. So the first question is what is your opinion? Is the present civic engagement higher, lower, or about the same as it was in the 1980s, right? Mm-hmm. So is civic engagement right now higher, lower, or the same as it was in the 1980s? So you can answer in the chat, or if you want to talk to us, raise your hand. So.
And Darrell is our facilitator in Best Start, so I'm going to ask her to monitor the chat and see if we have any hands raised.
I just saw somebody. Okay, so Maria Teresa says it was Tessa said it was higher.
Okay.
It's higher.
Any other person? Any other answers?
I know
I'm
this
not
group,
gonna-
I know this group isn't shy, so don't be shy now.
Yeah, come on, guys.
She put out
So
Bernadette and I-
Bernadette
The other
agrees.
person
Bernadette
says they
agrees.
agree, higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I have more questions, so we're gonna go kind of quickly, but I'm gonna be answering. I do want you guys to participate, but in this question, I was blown away because I looked at the numbers today, right?
Higher,
And
higher.
I'm thinking, wow, with social media and all this other, like people can easily get involved with things.
higher amount.
I don't know.
The answer was surprising to me because it
Lower.
is lower.
Lower.
Okay,
You-
it's lower. It's like 50% lower than what it was in the 1980s, right? And when I
Just thinking
looked
that.
at that number, it really blew
I'm
my
looking at this chart. Wow.
what? How could that possibly be? When I do my little events, people come but what happens is we're not as committed as our parents and maybe grandparents were when it came to civil engagement, right? So I remember when I first started doing this kind of work and I would go and do presentations and I would go to, all the animal clubs, like the elk, all of those guys. There were all these organizations and you would walk into the room and there was a lot of people there. They were thriving, right? And now I go to those groups and they're kind of dwindling, and that's a good question. Joyce says, among what age group? Well, it kind of has stayed among our age group. Among my age group, there are people still participating, right? I'm in the young 50s, right?
So am I.
So, the older they are, the more participation. But the younger kids, the younger people are, it's not the same kind of participation. People
Yep.
have no problem TikToking. They have no problem Instagramming, right? And Twittering. They're good.
Twitting.
But that's it. That's all the engagement they're doing, right? We need them to go from that and be engaged in real life
Yep.
with
Right.
people.
With
No, but
people.
Right?
It's the physical participation. They're doing it online,
Yes.
but they're not, this new generation isn't physically going.
And they're also kind of thinking, I'm doing my project kind of, I'm really into this, but they're not bringing it kind of full circle
Full
where
circle,
it,
right.
you get, I was reading something in preparation to this, and you have to get into what, and I'm not quite yet in my presentation, but kind of, it's about teaching what civic education used to teach us, right? Like you can make changes in your community, in your local government by participating in local
Yep.
government, right?
Right.
And really explaining to our community that there is power in our local government and in participating, right? Because otherwise, only a few people come to those meetings, only those few points of views get heard,
Heard.
and then decisions get made that impact all of us by a little group, right?
Yep.
And there is power in teaching them. There's a system, and we have to do either one or two things. We either need to change the system so that it looks different and we're willing to participate in it, or we need to participate in the system that we have now, right? So and then this is not to in any way talk badly about those that are younger than us, right? But it's I think it's a matter of educating, and it kind of falls on us, and it really falls among us. That's like the biggest engagement we have to do, is really educating about where power is, right?
And sorry, Patricia, and that goes back to, you know, looking at those things, because you cannot, I believe, using the same methods and system to do public outreach for each project, it will not work because of this. Because as we identify, right, the younger generations are probably more inclined to fill out a survey on their phones than they are to come physically. So it's, how do you get them there physically? Maybe including activities, maybe including incentives, maybe including things that will motivate them to be part of it. A lot of, you know, sometimes they may think, what am I getting out of this? Right?
Right.
I'll give you information, but what am I getting out of it? So
Right.
making it clear to them from the beginning, this is what
Right.
you would get for participating. So as Patricia said, you know, it's looking at all that picture and always evolving on your way of doing public participation and reaching out to people.
And
No-
I
Hey,
think
Nardy.
it's also about getting youth to come and be part of our organizations, because youth attracts youth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the youth, our youth are not just, I mean, you know, I just said they're in their Twitters, TikToks and whatnot, but some of them are really impactful, right? But
Mhm.
they're just not making the connection. That power relies in the systems that we have. And if we want to change the power structures, then we need to start infiltrating the systems that we have and maybe reorganizing them. But maybe that doesn't need to come from a woman who's 51 years old. That might need to be coming from a young, powerful 20-something, 19-something, right? And they're out there. I've seen them. I just had the opportunity of being part of a really powerful presentation for Martin Luther King's day. And the panelists, there were some really powerful young people there, right? And I'm like, they would motivate anybody, right? So we just need to get that out there. I have a second question.
Oh, wait,
which of
Nardy,
these-
Donna Hill had something she wanted to,
Oh,
if
yes.
you look at the chat, and I think she made a really good point. She said, and that's the point, we have to meet people where they are, changing delivery to match those you want to reach.
Yes.
Yes.
So it goes right in alignment with what you were saying.
Yes.
Yes, I
Mhm.
agree. Okay, so the question number 2 is, which of these is not a good civic engagement activity? So I have A, coaching or volunteering with your child's sports team. B, participating in your school's PTO, volunteering at your local food bank, packing doggy goodie bags to distribute at the local dog park. What do you guys think? Which of those you would think is not a good engagement activity?
Right. It's not a good engagement.
Yeah, I try to trick you.
Between volunteer for the
So
child's.
I actually think I put number D because I just as the community programs coordinator, one of my things is I've moved away from just doing saves, right? Now I'm really excited because I get to do the city. I get to do community engagement with everybody, not just for the food bank, but with a lot of things, right? So one of the first things I did was somebody approached me and said, Patricia, can we do doggy goodie bags? Because at the local park, at the local dog park, the city has a program and we give out little doggy bags, right? And I was thinking to myself, I didn't say it to them, but I was thinking to myself, what? I've been doing like, food bags and kids for our unhoused, and we're doing doggy bags. But you know what? They felt that there was a need. So I said, okay, that's my job. I'm supposed to help them fill their needs, right? So I did. Do you know that I got over 80 volunteers that wanted to come and do that?
Don't mess with the dogs, Patricia. You know, these are.
I'm a dog lover. Okay,
I
I'm a
keep the
dog
dog
lover.
people.
I
Don't-
love my dogs, but I thought,
Don't mess with the dogs.
who's gonna come to do that? Let me tell you, I'm
Patricia,
gonna have that activity every time.
Yeah, Patricia, you
Because-
got to remember all of our homeless neighbors out there. A lot of the majority have doggies.
Yep.
True.
Yep.
They treat
Yeah.
them
So what I
sometimes better
learned-
than-
See,
yeah,
I've been
they're-
doing this a long time, but
Right?
so it's good to throw yourself out there and to go with ideas that you didn't
Right.
think were good, because I learned what
Yeah.
happened was there's a lot of people that are really passionate about their four-legged
Mhm.
friends,
Yeah.
right?
I
There's
have
one-
survivors that will not leave their abuser because they will not leave the animal.
Yes,
And furthermore, that's a tool that the abuser will use and
Mm.
abuse the animal to threaten the would-be victim. We don't like to call them victims, but are survivors.
yes.
Wow.
So what I learned from that was that it actually was a really great idea, a really great community engagement, because look, it brought kids, right? Little kids could do this. This is not difficult to do. It's not heavy to do. They can put little doggy treats in a bag and tie a little knot, or mom can tie the little knot. But it brought my children. It brought the parents, because they have to be there with their children. It brought my elderly, because again, something that they can do. But more importantly, I could identify a community. I could identify a group of people that are passionate, so passionate that they're willing to get up on a Saturday morning early enough to come and do this. And they're great workers. They got those babies done in no time.
And
right?
they may volunteer now for other things.
And so that was the other thing. So then I thought, So I did another event for, again, Martin Luther King's Day. I had a doggy goodie bag event that day too. It brought a lot of new people, and I had a whole lot of different things geared specifically for that community, right? So in the upcoming season of service, we're going to be working in our doggy park. We're going to be looking at things. This community is passionate, and they're so passionate, they're willing to put it into action, right? So we need to find those niches. We need to find that. So
In
I'm
the
going
chat
to-
room, you have so many agreements. There are so many that are saying, I love these ideas. They are encouraged by, don't mess with the fur babies. Don't mess with the fur babies. You're going to get a fight on your hands. But this all are, I'm seeing the comments in the chat, and they said, these are all good. Engagement can be anywhere. And a lot of them said number D, like you. So it's a great idea. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback and in agreement with what you just said, because it is one way to engage at a different level.
Yeah,
But I love the
so-
one that said, Miss Janie said, don't mess with the fur babies. Don't do it.
I have 2 fur babies, and I'm with you people. So, okay, so I'm going to go into my presentation. I have 2 more questions. I'll leave that towards the end, okay? But so community programs, I've been part of community programs for a good chunk of the time that I've been at Saves, because at the city, because Saves was always associated with community programs, right? So it's a natural match. And so being in that, it's a small department. It used to be a department of 3. It's now like a department of 2, maybe 3, I don't know, on good days. But community programs, what we're doing is we're here to engage the community, right? And what we want to do, I want to do, is I see community programs as bringing engagement to the everyday person, right? The person that is working and doesn't have time to volunteer my 40 hours at a food bank, but wants to be involved in their community, right? And what we want to do is we want to create the opportunities for people to fall in love with their community, have ownership of their community, and in the process also nurture their leadership skills, right? And I'll talk a little about that. So as part of our community program, we do 4 things, and I'll be talking a little more about some of these. We do one-day community service days. We do individual ongoing volunteer activities. We open the city and other agencies to provide these ongoing volunteer activities. We do community classes and training opportunities. The aim of all of these is to provide a sense of ownership, like I said, and to nurture leadership in our community. So in November, the Saturday before Thanksgiving is National Family Volunteer Day, okay? The city has been participating in that event for the last 8 years. We had one that we skipped because of COVID, but we went back this past year. And I was a little scared because one was my first on my own without my my mentor and friend, Trish Jones. Many of you, I'm sure, knew her. She had just retired and I was taking on after her. And I was a little nervous because it was COVID time and I was thinking, oh, I hope people will come. I had 5 different activities for Family Volunteer Day, and I ended up with over 213 volunteers, okay? People came, people wanted to come and be part of the community. We have been, I think we were all tired of just being like this, right? So there's a nurture leadership, right? So it's just me and I have 5 activities. So I decided, okay, I can't divide myself in 5 pieces, so I need help. So I have a group of volunteers, older mom type volunteers, but I decided to reach out to one of our local schools and get some of their, there's a club in their school and that club needed community service hours. So I said, okay, well, I'll give you community service hour for everybody in your club because they can come and participate, but I have a special request. I need 6 of you guys to come and help me lead these volunteer events on that day. Because I'm going to be running around, taking the water, taking the signs, the whatever things we needed, right? And I need people there, and I need people to take pictures, and I need people to be putting it on Facebook, and they're all like, oh, I don't have Facebook. So I'm like, okay, I dated myself. So Instagram, post it on Instagram. But I need people to be there. So I did. I ended up with 6 young adults, all in high school. The youngest was 16. The oldest was 17 and a half, because when we're almost 18, we need to say it, right? So she said 17 and a half. And they ran the programs. All I did was I told them really quickly. I had a little meeting 2 days before the event, and I said, this is what you're going to do. I had my little, here are the forms, here are the things you need to do, and you guys go do it, right? I have a daughter who's 11, and she needed to come and do something. So she came and she helped one of them, and they were in charge of everything. They were in charge of registering everybody. They were in charge of making sure that everybody had what they needed for the events. They did an amazing job, to the point that I had participants come up to me and say, wow, they did great. People wrote comments because they were blown away at how great they did, right? Nourishing leadership. right? So for my event in a few weeks ago for Martin Luther King's Day, I had one of those young people, and my daughter said, I'll go, I'll volunteer. So I said, okay, you're the second person. Unfortunately, and because the times that we live, my young volunteer got sick, so she couldn't be there. And I didn't know this until I was almost getting there. And I was like, oh, because I didn't think I could leave my 11-year-old alone to do this, right? She knows what to do, right? Maybe. So she's like, Mom, I got it. I can do this. I remember what we need to do, right? Nourishing leadership. She wasn't there alone. There were people there, and had she had a problem, people were going to be there. But we need to start doing that. And that, I think, is key about what we're trying to do in the city with community programs. I don't want to run all the programs. I don't even want to come up with the ideas of what we're going to be doing. I want the community to later come in and give us ideas of what our days of service will look like.
Yep.
Let's go to the next slide. So these are examples of some of the community things that we do. The service days, season of service is, we've been doing this also for 8 years. It goes from January to June. And this year we're going to be focusing on the third Saturday of the month. And we're going to be coming up with things. This year, I'm going to stay where we were been all these years, right? So I go to my city co-workers and I say, what projects do you guys want to do that you haven't done because you need people to come and help you? So we're probably going to do some park cleanups. We're probably going to remove some graffiti. We're probably going to be doing more doggy bags. We're probably going to be doing things like that, right? Next year, my hope is, and I hope some of you guys can help me with this. Next year, my hope is that I'm going to have some community input as to what should we be doing, right? And I think that we can get there. It might not be right away, but we slowly will be able to get comfortable. The city and the community kind of in the same way that we got comfortable at SAVES, right? I look at this as a bigger SAVES. So we just need to get comfortable. Everybody needs to trust each other. And I think that in a few years from now, season of service will be designed and run by community members. And I'll just be carrying the waters and making sure you guys got the signs and the tables, right? Because that should be the work. And the actual service should be done by the community. I talked a little about Family Volunteer Day. We also have 2 of these, the Palmdale Partners Academy, which I think is great because it goes back to that education, right? That civic education. That is a really great program. If you have not participated, be in the lookout when that comes out. I think it might come out in fall. It's not run by me, but by my co-worker in community programs. And what it is you get, I believe it's 8 classes. They're all in the evening, kind of like you're doing now, but you get presentations from the people in the city departments, and they tell you what it is that they do for you, how they do it, why what they do is important. So you'll have people from finance, you'll have people from city managers, you have people from community programs, they'll have people from Parks and Rec, you'll have everybody. And you get to really understand why we have the departments that we have and what it is that they do. And at the end of that class, you really understand. Like I took the class after being here an employee for 7 years, right? And I always go into a presentation. At that time, I do the presentation about SAVES. And I used to go and I would wonder, why do people give this much time for this class? I want to know what they're getting. Other than my presentation, what are they getting, right? So I took the class, and I'll tell you, I was already an employee here for 7 years. It blew my mind. I was like, oh, one of the things I can tell you that really like makes like, wow, was the guy who's from a traffic engineer. Somebody said, how come we have those little runabout things? Why do we do those, right? So the guy was like, oh, well, I'll tell you why. They're safer than a light, and they're way cheaper. I don't remember the numbers right now, but I did not know how expensive putting a light is, right? And so for the community, it is cheaper to do a runabout than it is to put a light. And he says, in the end, there is a less amount of possibility for a deadly car accident if you get into an accident in a runabout. And I was like, oh, so, and that stuck with me, right? So now I'm like, oh, okay, so yeah, we should be having more of those. Right? So those are, I think it's really interesting because then you really get to understand. You get to understand why participating in certain, participating in certain meetings is important, and what does this commission does, and what does that commission do, and why should we be there? How do I get on there, right? Those kinds of information, it's hard for people to get if they're just trying to get it on their own. Here, you make contact with the person. If you're really a numbers person, you can really find out what are we doing with this money and why, and they'll give you the answers. So Youth Job Academy is a great opportunity. Also, it's geared towards high school age students, and it trains them in how to get their first job, maintain their first job, and it gets them quite right prepared for that first interview. And usually it is timed so that it happens right before the city does their big hiring for the summer, right? So it's a really nice mix because you give them the tools and then you say, okay, guys, go get your first job, right? And a lot of them end up getting their first job with the city, right? Okay, next slide, please. And you'll be happy to know I'm almost done. Okay. Community programs facilitates ongoing community volunteers opportunities within the city, okay? So I wanted to highlight a few of these because you heard enough about SAVES, and yeah, you know that you can volunteer at a food bank. That's simple, right? But some of the other ones I want to touch base with you is, is thinking outside the box, right? So Parks and Rec, you would probably think, yeah, there's coaches and they're volunteering, right? And that's true. Legacy Commons, so if you don't know about Legacy Commons, that's our active adult center, right? So 50 and older, I think, right? There are people that can volunteer there. A lot of the participants are volunteers there, and they teach classes to one another. And they do different presentations and they do different things. And so the staff that is there is minimum because a lot of the people who participate are also volunteering there, right? So it's another great way of seeing that evolve. The paw trollers, I just learned about them, okay? The paw trollers is a great idea that somebody who is running our local dog park here in town created, okay? And she noticed that there are people that love the dog park and they wanted to be more active and make sure that the dog park was a great place for everybody to come. And she said that it came about because she was talking to some of the regulars, right? And one of the persons said, I love bringing my dogs here, but the humans, I don't know. The dogs get along, but then the humans, we have to what do we do? I wish there was a way that we can connect, like a person that, you know, saw that one person over there and their dog is having a great time, but they don't know what to do with themselves, right? And so that's how paw trollers came to be. It's not for the dogs, it's for the humans, right? So the other day I took my 2 doggies to the dog park and I saw it in action. A person came, they brought their dog, the dog is having a great time, but the person, you know, they're like, they don't know where to stand, they don't know, should I, can I use this ball? What should I do? So this guy who's the paw troller of the day came and said, hi, my name is Joe. And just want to give you some highlights about what we're doing. And here's a little flyer. We're going to have our Love of Two Tails or something. They're having a Valentine event. And he gave them the little thing and they said, and you will have fun too. Your doggy will come and you can take pictures. And so all of a sudden, this woman just was like, oh, okay. Involvement, right? There was a connection. This person most likely will come back and will feel a part of something, right? And that's what paw trollers do. And I thought, oh, I need to talk about this because it's a great idea. And it's the little things, it's the things that people are passionate about. And if they can share that passion with somebody else, that's how involvement happens, right? Yeah. We have volunteers at emergency services. We have a woman who runs the city emergency services. And I mean, she's in charge of a huge emergency were to happen. She would be the lady running everything, right? There was a person who wanted to participate and be a volunteer. He had the education, he lived in the community, he wanted to put his knowledge to serve his community, right? So he became a volunteer and it's really helping her because he knows what to do and it's a way of giving back for him, right? Public safety, we have one of our public safety persons who runs all the neighborhood watches, right? It's also, he's an employee, but he's also a pastor, right? So this idea came up with, you know, it might be good when domestic violence cases happen, right? It might be good to be able to give people, sometimes they're not quite ready to go, but maybe they might be willing to talk to somebody and just giving another option, right? So through that idea, they now have this little group of local pastors who volunteer and they are on call. And if a person, a survivor, or even the person who was the abuser feels that they can want to talk to somebody, connect with somebody in the moment, the officers can make that connection. They can give a number, they carry, I was going to say a pager, but that's really dating me, right? They carry a cell phone and then they make that connection, right? And it's a volunteer program. It's completely run currently with volunteers, right? Code enforcement. There are some, we needed people to hear, you know, our code enforcement officers give out tickets, right? So sometimes residents have the right to a hearing. The hearing officers that we have in the city are all volunteer people. They have expertise and they have a desire to get back to their community. So they become volunteers. These are just examples of how things that, I mean, I guess we could pay some people to do these things, but we would be robbing the community of other people to give back to the community, right? So when you're looking in your world, in your organizations, you know, think of things that you, again, all of those require letting go, right? Because the moment you let that patroller go on their own, you can't control them the same way you would be able to control a staff person, right? But it's a way of really giving back to the community by offering them opportunities to serve in the community. I've talked a lot. I wonder if you guys have any questions on the things that I've said, or maybe Nardy has said. I don't know if you want to talk to me or just write them in the chat room. As you're kind of thinking about that, let me just go over this slide. I really like this slide because I think that civic engagement looks like that, right? It's in a local, national level. It can be really overwhelming sometimes if we don't look at the fact that we can do little things that can make big impacts, right? So all the things that Nardy and I talked about could be found in that local level, right? And it could be systemic to individuals, right? And the stuff I was talking about could be found kind of in the second level there, right? But all of it is civic engagement, and all of it can eventually, if you continue working on it, could make an impact even in a national level, right? So what I think our biggest task is not just putting the event together, getting people to come to the event, but is giving people, opening up their horizons, that you can be doing a cleanup today, but if you're really passionate about this, you can join force and you can make a change, right? So, you know, I had a cleanup in a previous job. I worked in a beach town, and a young man was like, he was really young. He was probably 7 or 8, and he was just almost crying at the fact how dirty our beaches were, right? And he's like, and I can just see all these little animals dying, and you know, and we talked to him because he was really upset. We talked to him and said, you know, every little bit helps. So if we were able to clean this beach and you're helping us clean this beach, every little thing helps. But remember, you don't have to stop in cleaning this beach. There's more things that you can do, because you, in your service, have power, right? Yep. So I just went, I used to live in Northern California, and I just went to Northern California a couple of weeks ago, and I ran into a person I used to work with, and we talked about this young man, because this young man is leading one of the most aggressive local ordinance. They're trying to create this big ordinance in the county about cleaning and keeping the beaches clean and the environment. And he's been doing TED Talks and all of these things. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I thought he was just a little kid that was really passionate. But it can happen, you know, if we nourish the passion people have. Yeah. We don't know what the limit of their passion is, right? So I think that for us is opening up the eyes and showing them that civil engagement could be this right now, but it could grow, and we need it all. So with that, I'll open it up for questions if there's any.
If there's any questions, you can either raise your hand and we'll try and you know, take yourself off mute, or if you wanted to put something in the chat. Again, Nardy and Patricia have been gracious enough to come from the city of Palmdale today to speak to us. So again, if you do have any questions, Darrell, if you can help me, if you see anybody, take them.
So there is a question.
Okay.
It is.
Should we read it, or Darrell would? Would you like to
I,
read it?
I
or-
can, I can, let's see, let me read it for you. A second. And so question, how can we work with the city of Palmdale? Who can we contact and see if we could also collaborate? We offer many community classes and we are starting a community mental health awareness workshops and would love to be able to promote those with your help. And this is coming from Gabriella.
So for work with the city of Palmdale, if that is referring to, collaborating with us, partnering with us in programs, et cetera, is that what that is referring to?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so, yes.
So Patricia is a good contact for that as well, because she runs the community programs division. And so she has contact to a lot of the programs and collaborating with her. There's also other departments. So if you specify, the type of collaboration that you would like, the type of programs, we can also connect you with the other divisions that have those type of programs, and you can collaborate with them. In regards to the mental health awareness workshops, we have a citywide calendar that when organizations, local organizations, et cetera, have events coming up or any information they would like to share, we do put it on there for that. That is on our website, and anyone that accesses that calendar in the community is going to see that. We can also help to share it out in other areas. So if you have an interest of sharing those, you can send those to me if you like, and I'll forward it on to our communications department and make sure that it's available. The library is a good place where people do put things out. If they want to display flyers or anything, I believe the library will work with you on that. We also have other counters like Legacy Commons. We have the recreation centers, so we can try and assist with putting some of that information out as well.
So,
and then
Saves does the food distribution
mm,
twice a week. We get about, on an average, about 200 to 300 cars in a 3-hour span of time. So if you contact me, I'll connect you with the coordinator at Saves. And a lot of organizations, especially during COVID, have, given us the flyers, and we make sure that every box of food has the flyer in it. At times, people have wanted to be there, so you can come out there if you have staff and collect information or just talk to so just Saves is a good way of disseminating information quickly.
Patricia, can you put your contact information in the chat box so that Gabriella can contact you or anyone else, maybe your email or something like that in the chat box, and that way those who are listening and they want to get in contact with you.
So,
And we will also make sure that either Darrell or Tracy get in contact with Patricia and Nardy to make sure that we can get some of those flyers that you spoke about earlier as well, and that we can share them with everybody who's present here, but also then share them in our Best Start Facebook page, Instagram, so we can do that as well.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nardy and Patricia, for letting me know. And then Darrell, thank you so much for reading my question.
You're welcome, Gabby. You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions? Anyone have any questions for Patricia or Nardy? You could take yourself off mute. You can put it in the chat if you don't want to speak. I see.
Tracy?
Yeah.
It's Albie. Hey,
Hello.
I just want to say thank you for all that you do both. I think it's inspiring to know what good stuff are going on in the community. Thank you.
Thank
oh,
you.
thank you for having us here. We could wrap it up in saying that it's a sense of belonging, right? I think all of us as individuals, right, and then we make a community, and then as a whole, as a community, we want to feel we belong. And so listening, right? Hearing what people are saying and what they are expressing their needs are is so critical to this public participation and to the roles that we hold, right? It's public service. That's what we do. We're public servants, and it's fulfilling those needs of the community and listening to what those needs are. It's also being inclusive, including everyone that's at the table, right? It's not inviting people to the table, it's including them in the conversation, and listening and hearing and sharing and coming to a consensus, even agreeing to disagree, right? But you know, being inclusive. It's also sharing. It's sharing of information, right? It's sharing, helping others share their information as well, because those mental health workshops are so critical right now during this time too, right? And so helping people share what they are doing so that the community hears about it and is able to engage and benefit from that. It's also, you know, being open to new systems. It's being open to change, because we evolve, right? Things evolve, and being open to that change, to accepting that, you know what, maybe we did it by ourselves for a period of time, but you know what, right now others are interested in helping too. And like Patricia said, right, it's hearing what others are want to do and just giving them the tools to accomplish that, because sometimes that is our role. It's not doing it ourselves, it's giving them the tools, empowering them. I think people that feel empowered and feel ownership of stuff will take care of it. And I think when the community feels that the community belongs to them and that they are invested in it and they're contributing to it, you know, it helps be the eyes and ears of the community, right? Like graffiti, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, there's so much graffiti here, right? But as an organization, we only can reach as far, you know, in getting it cleaned up. So the eyes and ears of the community coming, hearing what ideas do people have to help with that. It's engaging, it's giving back, it's you know, reaching out, and it's creating partnerships. It's like creating partnerships that, you know, that at a point in time when there's a need, you can make that call and that partner is going to be there, right? And it's reciprocal, right? Because that's the way it works. It's creating trust, it's creating partnerships, it's creating a list of stakeholders in the community that will work together, that'll help each other. And that is what makes a community thrive, and a community where people want to come visit, where people want to come live, where youth will want to come back to live and provide to the economy, and make us, right, a place where everybody feels proud to be here and be a part of something that's always becoming greater and greater in a positive way. And we thank you, Patricia. I love working with Patricia. As you see, we get along well. I just, you know, and so we are here to serve. Yes. And we may not have all the answers, but I will say that we try to find you someone that can give you an answer. So
I wanted to take this moment, if we can all give a round of applause virtually. Thank you so much, Nardy Lopez and Patricia Morales, for spending you know, the 2 hours with us. It was really appreciated. And so thank you so much. I'm just going to go real quick because we're at 6:45. I'm just going to go real quick into the last portion of the presentation. If you could just give me a moment, and if everyone can see my screen, let me know if you can. Okay, so just some final thoughts. Nardy mentioned, you know, that she has her email in the chat, and so does Patricia. If you guys have the link, and I'm going to ask my colleague Stephanie to put the link to the Jamboard, it should be accessible. I did have my colleagues test it out. So the reason why I'm mentioning it is every module that has a speaker that has information that you may want to contact them, be it Mike Garcia's office, be it Assemblyman Lackey, Laura Valles, they're on that Jamboard. So they're on the last page that says resources. And so there's that for you to go to. We'll also be making sure that we share the flyers that Nardy mentioned. And let me just move to the next screen real quick. And so these are just some resources from today that are also on the Jamboard that you received with your packet, some information about the city of Palmdale, and then some public participation guide, and just some other information if you want to delve into it a little bit further. And then also, Stephanie's also going to put our link tree. If you're not familiar with it, it is actually a really cool kind of social media where you actually, it's exactly like it sounds. All the links can go there. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we post our videos every week, but Linktree actually has all of the links together. So it's really cool kind of a social media aspect, a tool that we use. So Stephanie's going to put that in the chat as well. So please follow us if you want to find out what's going on or you're interested. And of course, we send the videos out every week, and we'll be doing that again. Next week, we're super, super excited. It'll be February 1st. Can't believe January is gone already almost. We will have Kimberly Garrett with Children's Bureau of Southern California speaking to us about communicating with difficult people. So again, you'll get the link the day of, so you'll get it on Monday and you'll get it an hour or two before, just a friendly reminder. So hopefully you'll be joining us for that. And then last but not least, thank you so much for joining us. You could be doing a lot of things on your Tuesday, mid-afternoon, evening, but you're here with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much again to Nardy and Patricia. And so I hope you all have a lovely week, and we'll be
Tracy, I believe that Sylvia Garner wanted to say something real quick.
Absolutely, Sylvia.
Hey, Nardy. Hi,
Sylvia.
Patricia. Those are my sisters from the WellBeing class. I just wanted to make a quick comment. We had Mike Garcia last week. He made a meeting with me. I just want everybody to know it was an hour meeting. He stayed there 2 hours, answered all the questions, and we are so looking forward to collaborating with him.
Oh, awesome.
Amazing.
Nice.
Nice to hear, Sylvia.
Amazing. And I just want to say with Nardy, she's working with my well-being group for an event that we're having in March. She is such a wealth of knowledge, her and Patricia. If you guys just have a question, they are open to it and can lead you in the right direction. Thank you so much, Tracy, for having them.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. And I'm
Thank
happy.
you.
I'm
Thank
happy to
you.
hear that the congressman gave you the time. That's
Yes.
great. That's perfect. So
Yes.
again, thank you so much for spending your Tuesday mid-afternoon, evening with us, and we hope to see you next week with the Communicating with Difficult People. So have a
Thank
lovely
you.
week.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good
Thank
evening
you.
to everyone.
Great.
Nice.
That was a
Thank
great
you, everybody.
presentation,
Good
ladies.
night.
Thank you.
Good night. That was awesome.